certain facts about them. One of them is that they're all nocturnal. Now these guys, and Gatsby in particular, is actually nocturnal, but not all owls are. Owls kind of have their own rules as to what the kind of time of day that they're awake, and that will depend on what they're eating. And so if their prey is around in the daytime, they're going to be a daytime animal. They're going to be what we call diurnal. But Gatsby is in fact nocturnal, and the clue is in his eyes. So if you have a look at his eyes, they're nice dark black colour. That means he's going to be active at night. Whereas owls that have a kind of brighter yellow eye, there we would be what we would call diurnal, so they're active during the day. And a few that we have, there might be one out later called Bubo, and he has a kind of a orangey sort of sunset, sunrise colour to his eyes, and that's what we call crepuscular, so he'll be active at dawn and dusk. So owls are actually active at lots of different times throughout the day. Having his lovely treat. So today he's got little bits of mice and chick for his food, and he is quite a good hunter out there. Owls in particular are very, very strong hunters. The things that they catch kind of exceed what we might imagine for their size. Now they've got a really, really strong grip strength. Gatsby in particular has around 400 PSI. Now PSI stands for pounds per square inch. Now for an average adult human male, we have around about 120 pounds per square inch that we can grab. So Gatsby here is a lot stronger, about 3 or 4 times stronger than I could possibly be, in terms of how much he can grab with his talons there. Now birds of prey always hunt with their feet. That's his main way of hunting, so he crashes down on his brain. He has a few adaptations in order to catch those things as perfect as he possibly can. One is that their beak points downwards. Now, as these guys are hunting things that are below them, if they had a big pointy beak sticking outside in front of their face, then it would block the things that they're trying to look at below them. So that beak hooks and turns downwards so that it's not getting in the way of his sight. But it also means he can shred his food nice and well. It's nice and strong, that beak. Now, a few other adaptations he has. Now, his eyes are probably the most important feature. Their sense of smell, although their nose and their beak is very cool, is not the best. They don't have very good sense of smell. That can be an advantage to these guys in some cases. For example, some animals out there, some owls hunting things like skunks, means they have a natural immunity to their main weapon. But these guys don't have a very good sense of smell, so they're focused entirely on their sight to grab their food and their hearing. Now their sight is very, very good. It's more of a long-range sight, however, which is why Sherry's got this great falconry glove, and we know exactly where he needs to go to get his food, because if he was standing right next to it, he wouldn't be able to smell it particularly well at all, and he wouldn't really be able to see it either, because it's very short range to him. So his long-sightedness is how he's going to catch his food. Now those eyes are incredible. They're so huge, however, that these guys, their eyes do not fit inside a rotating socket. They're actually more conical in shape rather than ours that are sort of spherical, our eyeballs that can rotate in a rotating socket. These guys, they can't do that. I think he might, is he having to head back in now? We can walk him around for a little bit, so I'll continue talking about him for a little while. So their eyes are actually conical shaped rather than spherical, which means they don't rotate, and that is why they have to rotate their entire heads to look at different things, unlike us who can actually move our eyes to look at something different rather than our entire head. Now that brings us on to another little myth that we sometimes have, and that's that these guys can rotate their heads 360 degrees. Now it's not 360 degrees, it's around about 270 that they can do. So that's kind of 3/4 of a pie chart rather than the full circle. But it's still a very, very powerful amount of turn that they can do. And the reason they can do that is that they actually have twice as many neck vertebrae as us in that area. So they have 13 neck vertebrae around there, and they're much smaller, of course, as they are a much smaller animal, and that means they can spin a lot further around to have a look at things. They also, a couple of other things I could talk about. One is those wonderful little tufts on the top of his head. Now, they might look like his ears, and though he does have really good hearing, those aren't actually his ears. There's something really fun called plumicorns. Now, that's a fancy way of saying feather horns, and those are just little tufts, little feathers that make him look a little bit bigger, a little bit more scary, and make him look a bit more imposing and very good. Whereas his ears are a little different, so his ears are actually internal, and his left ear is slightly bigger and slightly higher up than his right ear. And that basically means he can differentiate between sounds that are coming in, whether they're higher up or lower down. As his left ear is slightly higher up, it means he can tell if something is above or below him, and how big and how far away it is. So they've got some really clever adaptations, these guys. There is one other myth around these guys that I'd like to clarify. This one's a bit sad for them in a way. They're kind of given this image of being a very wise animal, as we've seen some associations with things like the goddess Athena, and she's the goddess of wisdom, and she's depicted with an owl on her shoulder. However, this isn't really the case. They actually have slightly below average intelligence, owls. It's not their priority to be smart. Their priority is catching and hunting their food. That's what keeps them alive, not necessarily being smart and that intelligence. So that was a little bit of a myth, but they're still incredible animals for the environment that they're living in. And Gatsby will continue to be an incredible species out there. So will our others, of course. You hopefully will see Bubo later this afternoon for another talk, and he is another African species, slightly larger than Gatsby, and they both will be catching much larger prey than their size. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but Gatsby, the sort of things that he could hunt can go up to even little small rodents, mammals, things like meerkats he can actually catch. He's a very strong animal for his size. So I believe we'll keep walking around with him for a little bit. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. And the next talk after this one will be the gorilla talk. Now that will be at 12:30, just behind us there in Trail of the Kings. We'll be doing that one shortly. Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of your day, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful one and a very merry winter's tale. Hope you've had a fantastic Christmas, everybody, and happy